Welcome to the Verdin Verdict Sports Show. I'm your host, Jacob Verdin. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. Weather's getting a little cooler, a little cool front coming in. Might not be a hot game day. October 12th. It's been a talk of college football lately, all off season. Everyone's been waiting for this weekend. It's finally here. Potentially one of the best weekends in college football. You got the Red River rivalry. You got LSU, Ole Miss. You got a couple of big time matchups, but we'll be sticking to the LSU one, breaking it down, telling you some players to watch, some players that I would keep in mind if I were you, some players that I would expect to do good. I'll give you a little bit of a Heisman watch, then open it up to your questions if you have any. Got a couple of key pieces of information, a couple of things that I would preface any predictions with. Anything that I'm going to say about this game, I have to get this out of the way first. LSU's off the bye week, right? Pretty big boost to your confidence. And this one is unfortunate, and I'm not going to kind of praise it. I'm not going to act like I'm proud of it or I'm happy about it. We obviously want everyone to be healthy. We obviously want everybody to be 100%. But if Trey Harris is out for Ole Miss, and he could play banged up. He could struggle through this week of preparation. He could not practice. He could save it for Saturday. But whatever the case may be, if Trey Harris doesn't come out 100%, I think it opens up a whole new world for LSU, and we'll get to that one toward the end of this breakdown. Another thing to keep in mind, LSU's bye week, right? Ole Miss doesn't have one. They've played 7 straight. This will be their 3rd straight SEC game. It's a little bit of a different feel for them. I think that, that it goes one of two ways, right? You could say that LSU's in a situation where they have to prove themselves. And LSU's in a situation where, quite frankly, if they lose this game, they've kind of already shot themselves in the foot. And I mean, really, you could say the same thing for Ole Miss, too, now with the Kentucky loss. Like, these two teams are fighting and clinging on to any bit of preseason hope or expectations or predictions that they had for themselves or their squads. A loss here on Saturday could potentially nullify any of those hopes or chances of any of those things happening. I think LSU's in probably a little bit of a better situation, just given that they're not really in a situation where they're replacing a wide receiver one, where they've been playing over and over and over and haven't had that week to just kind of sit down, relax, just take a breather in the SEC, because it's about to ramp up and it's about to get grimy. And I think it starts here this weekend. We'll be there covering the game, of course. We'll have our highlights, our regular coverage, our live post-game show that we'll probably put out Sunday morning with our guy G. We'll do our full prediction this Friday. We'll do a little bit of a top 3 breakdown as we normally do. I'm probably going to get G on there as well. But for the players to watch, let's throw the first obvious one out into the open. Jackson Dart, quarterback, very mobile, very accurate. A lot of people had high hopes for him entering the season, saying he could have a big year. He could have a Heisman potential year. He could turn some heads. He could make some noise. And I think so far, entering this week 7, week 8, whatever we're in, he's done so. He's lived up to the bill. He's lived up to the hype. He's number 2 in passing yards. He's number 14 in passing touchdowns. And he's number 11 in completions. This passing offense for Ole Miss could torch LSU's pass defense, right? It could. LSU's been in a little bit of a murky spot, but I want to put this out there. Now, the Ole Miss and their offense is all fine and dandy, but if you compare the rankings in terms of statistics, Nussmeier's number 7 in passing yards to Jackson's 2. He's number 5 in touchdowns to Jackson's number 14. And Nuss is number 5 in completions to Jackson Dart's 11. It's not to say that Nussmeier's a better quarterback. It's not to sit here and kind of, pick and prod. But all I'm saying is, if Ole Miss is going to get all this hype and Ole Miss is going to get all this, pregame angst, their passing game this, their passing game that, I'm giving it to LSU. Straight up. I think LSU's passing offense is that strong. Yeah, you don't got the Malik Neighbors. Yeah, you don't got the Brian Thomas Jr.'s. But what do you have? You got Garrett Nussmeier. You've got a wide receiver in Aaron Anderson who's been turning heads and turning up all season long. So shout out to him. I think both offenses are very explosive, and you're in a situation where you could see a shootout. That's why the total's at 63 or 64. That's why both people, at least from the coaching standpoint, Lane Kiffin and Brian Kelly, it's been chippy all season long. They know what's coming. They know this is going to be probably maybe not your most circled game, but it's going to be one of the toughest games, especially for the LSU side. I think another player we're going to have to watch for, we're going to move into the number 2, Henry Parrish Jr., their running back. He's a big-time runner. He could break open the passing game for them as well. You got to kind of keep in mind that with a good passing offense, you're not just going to be able to sit there in the pocket and make decisions over and over and over without inevitably getting pressured, without inevitably getting figured out. How do you prevent that? How do you prevent a defense from just kind of smothering you with pressure up front or with some type of blanket coverage in the back, or just eventually finding out your scheme, your schematics? What you do is you continuously pound that rock and you make sure that you have to make a choice. The linebackers have to make a choice. You can't just sit there and get on the balls of your feet and try to help out in coverage, because sometimes you're going to have to fill in the gaps and fill in your assignment to stop this run. Henry Parrish is number 7 in rushing touchdowns. And here's an interesting stat about Ole Miss's running game that you might not have known. Parrish has a touchdown in every single game except the season opener. Matter of fact, in week 2 against Middle Tennessee, he had 4 of them. I think this is a pretty interesting and underrated, if you will, aspect of Ole Miss's offense, because like we just said with the first part of the show, with the first part of our segment, Jackson Dart and that passing offense is elite, just like LSU's and Garrett Nussmeyer's. But the running game for Ole Miss has really kind of gone a little bit understated. I mean, yeah, you lose Quinshon Judkins, and the hype is kind of gone, at least from that part. But I think Henry Parrish Jr., he's taken that role, and he's running with it. He's been succeeding with it. If you stop him, you make Jackson have to beat you and avoid pressure for 4 full quarters. I think you're bound to see a mistake. I think you're bound to be in a better predicament, at least. You're going to have to wrap this running back up. Another player to watch. If Trey Harris is out, that means Antoine Wells Jr. is going to be the focal point. He's their wide receiver too. He could be the most healthy option, especially with Trey Harris, rumored to not even play. Even if he plays, he's going to be limited. Newsflash, he ain't going to have the same type of incorporation into the offense. I do want to highlight, even though Antoine is wide receiver too, he's got 4 touchdowns to Trey Harris's 5. So he's been getting active. He's been getting kind of incorporated. But I got a breakdown of their reception chart and their reception game for what it's worth. It could be nothing. It could just be, baloney. But they have 137 catches on the year, right? 38% of those catches have gone to Trey Harris. Almost half of the passing offense has revolved around number 9. Antoine's only had 12% of the catches. And I'm not saying that the wide receiver 2 should be closer in terms of that gap, but it just doesn't feel to me that this passing offense is going to have that same impact without a Trey Harris. So if that's your biggest X factor here for this game, if you're LSU, how healthy is Ole Miss going to be walking into this game? And that's why that bye week is so important. That's why that 7 straight game mark, that is a huge narrative going into this game. I don't think it can go overstated personally. Last player to watch, last matchup, if you will, because this one's going to be interesting. Trey Amos, the cornerback, he's the leader on the team in solo tackles. He's all around the field. He's one of those guys that you're going to probably see throughout the entirety of the game. He's got 2 interceptions on the year, 6 pass deflections. That's number 3 in the country, by the way. He'll probably be battling in between a Kyron Lacey, maybe a CJ Daniels, hopefully, knock on wood, a Chris Hilton Jr., who, by the way, Brian Kelly mentioned the slow healing process, right? We're talking about Trey Harris potentially being out, and I think we might have to worry about Chris Hilton maybe not playing. Could it be a smoke screen? Could it be Brian Kelly trying to be strategic with the injury report ahead of the game? Probably. I mean, maybe. I'm going to give that the benefit of the doubt. That's my optimistic approach. More than likely, though, I think LSU has to continue to expect that Chris Hilton's not going to be ready, just based off of what Brian Kelly said. So both teams are going to be in a little bit of an interesting spot. But with someone like Trey Amos, I think, if you don't have a Chris Hilton to be able to diversify that reception room, might not be the end of the world, might make things a little more difficult. You might need everyone on their A game. What Chris Hilton brings you is he makes everybody honest around him. When you run that fast, when you get that open, and when you have that resume behind you, you got to respect them. You got to play them accordingly. And you're not going to be able to do your brackets, do your doubles, do your attention on, certain players as they could potentially without them. I think, going forward, here's my final takeaway. Ole Miss has a great passing offense, right? They could be lost, though. They could be lost this Saturday trying to make some things work. They have limited options, obviously. I think your best chance, if you're LSU, you come in, you be physical, you stop that run, and you make them pass on you all game long. Might sound idiotic, might sound crazy, but if that's their only option and LSU knows it and you're sitting back waiting, licking your lips, waiting to take one out of the air in a no-fly zone, it could work. Just get a takeaway, catch them, make a mistake, capitalize, and play clean football. What does Brian Kelly say? Complimentary football. Please play that, because you can go out, get a win over a ranked opponent. I believe they're top 12. So, I mean, hey, that's what you need to crack into the CFP. And I know a lot of people are saying it's a reach. It's impossible. It might not happen. Guess what? LSU beats Ole Miss on Saturday. I got news for you. It could be very well here. Real quick before we break down this Heisman Watch, wanted to shout out Happy Dad. You know where to get them. Rouse's, Walmart, Albertsons. If you want some Happy Dad merch, we got you a link in the description of this video. Use code Verdin15 at checkout for 15% off. You know the drill. No artificial flavors, low sugar, gluten-free. The best taste of hard seltzer on the market. You know it. Got to cop it for the tailgates, for the pre-games. It's not as hot, so I can't use the whole refreshing and getting out of the sun type tagline. We're going to get creative, though. TBD. Moving into this Heisman Award Watch. We'll be doing this every Wednesday. Nice little segment, just kind of, looking at 3 players that I think could be a Heisman finalist or potentially Mr. Heisman at the end of the season. Talking about their recent performances, kind of just putting it all into perspective, if you will. First one's first. Maybe the more probable. Maybe a lock, if you will. Actually, all 3 of these could damn well be locks. Number 1, Cam Ward. Number 1 in passing yards, number 1 in touchdowns, number 3 in completions. He's got Miami at the forefront, right? They're coming back in every single game. They're down 2-3 possessions. You fall asleep on them because of how late the game's playing. You wake up, boom, Miami somehow came back and won. They don't really have any ranked games left as of now. Florida State's their biggest game on the 26th. But I think if he keeps being this explosive, if he keeps putting up these stat totals, keeps leading these offenses to these high scoring, point totals, you could be in a situation where your name is getting called New York. I mean, that's the name of the game. That's the name of this award. Lamar Jackson got the benefit of the doubt at a smaller school, and I'd imagine that they'd have to keep it going here. He does have a bye week this week. So, I mean, his totals obviously won't increase. He might not have a huge performance. He might get overshadowed by a couple of guys, maybe even on this list. The next one I'm going to go into, I'm going to keep it similar. Same narrative, right? Smaller school, needs some respect, performing, balling. Hopefully they don't rob him because he's at Boise State. But my guy, Alshon Jeffrey, turning up, number 1 in rushing yards by a mile, too, by the way. Almost 250 yards. That'll take most people 2 games to get. He's got 16 touchdowns on the year. 16 touchdowns. His touchdown totals, I'm going to read you the first 5 games, right? 6 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. He had 0. 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. This dude is a maniac. Cheat code. College football road to glory player. On freshman. On rookie. Number 1, everything damn near. Number 1 in touchdowns. Number 1 in rushing yards, like we said. Number 1 in yards per carry. 10.9. First down every single time you hand him the ball. Yard totals, let's dive into those. 267, 192, 127, 259, 186. Cross the century mark every single time. Every single time. Kid's electric. I think Jensen needs to be hyped as much as possible. Even if he slows down and gets half of the yardage and half of the touchdowns that he's been getting, he'll probably finish in the top 5 just because of how quick he's jumped out in front. And last but not least, to end off and cap off this Heisman segment, it wouldn't be a Heisman segment without Travis Hunter. I mean, the two-way player, the man himself, everybody's been, clamoring about his performances, and rightfully so. He could be potentially the first defensive, even though he's a hybrid, I'll throw it out there. He could be the first defensive player since Charles Woodson to win this Heisman. The only other besides. He's got 11 catches off a career high in a season. He's 160 yards off his career high in a season already at this point in the year. He's already got his career high in a season in touchdowns. He's on fire. Number 3 in catches in the nation. Number 8 in yards in the nation. Number 3 in touchdowns, not to mention the cornerback stats. 2 picks, his first forced fumble in his career. He's lacking in tackles a little bit, but that's what happens when you put straps on people. The ball ain't going in your area. But all jokes aside, I think Travis Hunter has been one of the biggest talked about players, rightfully so. He's in a situation where he can make some history. He could play NFL football at both primary skill positions, corner and wide receiver. And everybody say he can't. Everybody say he won't. It's hard to say that at this point with how much talk has gone around it. A football team, NFL team, whoever drafts him, probably with the first pick of the draft, you'd be stupid not to. I know he might get hurt, but you're going to bring in so much extra attention, eyes, fans. Just, it's a no-brainer, especially if you're at that point where you're picking first in the draft. You obviously got something to figure out. You got something that you need, and I think he got it. Hybrid player, probably going to be in the Heisman finalists, and like I said, I think all three of these players can make some noise, close it out, and be there when this season is all said and done. Hope everybody has a good one. I'll probably wrap this up right now if no one has any questions in the chat. We got our guy Coco in there. Daisy Jenkins. I'm already knowing this is what he's talking about. I'm getting him out of here. He's banned. He's banned. Get him out. Appreciate everybody joining the stream. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. Hit the subscribe button. We'll be live again Friday. Like I said, it's the full breakdown. It's the real deal. Everybody's coming for it. The picks, the top 3 games. They want to make some money. You want to make some? Tune in Friday at 1 o'clock. I'm going to give you the hottest picks. I'm going to tell you if LSU's going to win or if they ain't. I need to study a little bit more. We almost there. We almost here. We're going to have our regular coverage Saturday. Let's see if I forgot anything. Nope, that's about it. Hope y'all have a good one. Appreciate everybody that tuned in. Once again, thumbs up on the way out, please. Means a lot. Have a good one.